Um, the last time we met on Monday night, Pastor spoke to us in Second Peter chapter 2, and he talked about using this to talk about the church and the way that the leadership of the church uses its position to seduce people or to keep people in the dark, and how that not only leads to destruction of the leadership, but how it affects the people. I don't remember. I'm not very good most of the doing summations like that, or recalling what was said. But if you don't mind, I think he outlined that pretty good. And since he's not on the line, if you don't mind, I'd like to reserve questions maybe till tomorrow on Second Peter, unless there's just something pressing that you have, and maybe as a group we can kind of unhash it and gain some understanding of it. But as always, I'll ask, are there any questions on anything that may have come to your attention that you may want to talk about? But please, if you do have questions on Second Peter, write them down or just remember them for tomorrow. And hopefully, he will be on tomorrow, and we can go into that, because it was a pretty in-depth discussion that he saw in there that led to a discussion rather on Monday. And so if there are any questions, I ask you, and I appreciate if you just hold on to them for me. Okay? If there aren't any questions on anything else, I want to invite you to look at something with me. And I hope we can have a discussion on this, because a lot of this is kind of in the dark to me. And I'm hoping we kind of do what we do and kind of open it up and make sense of it all. But I was looking at something in the second chapter of Genesis chapter 2. And I was looking at Sabbath, seventh day, and something else caught my attention. And before, as I was looking at that, and I just want to talk about it for a minute or ask questions about it. So hopefully we can kind of look at it together and get some insight into it, okay? Genesis chapter 2, verses 1, 2, and 3. And if you know that, I'm sure you guys will pay attention that we revisit stuff sometimes. I think that as seasons change, things ripen to us, and we eat the fruit that we see that is ripened at that time, and we go back to the tree, and there's more ripened fruit for us, and that's what we do. So that's, the best explanation I could think of, because it seems like every time we go back to something, there's something fresh there for us to enjoy. So, but anyway, thus, this is verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. And by the seventh day, God completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all the work which God had created and made. As I was looking at seventh day and trying to gain a little more understanding of that, something caught my attention. In that first verse, it says, thus the heavens and the earth were completed and all their hosts. Well, we've read that 100 times or more, but the word host there had a different meaning than I ever had seen in that. Host is talking about an army. It's talking about to wage war or warfare. And that completely caught me off guard. It talks about to assemble an army and to organize an assembly for warfare, to muster something. Muster means to bring together an army, and to wait upon something, to assemble. And it's wait upon. It's kind of like waiting for the war. You assemble yourself and you wait for things to start. So that got my attention. As we know in chapter 1, the end of chapter 1, it says, and God saw that he had all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was an evening, there was a morning, the sixth day. So this, everything has been completed, and then it talks about the host thereof. And one, in me doing some research, one publication talks about that being angels, and that being the sun, the moon, the stars, and the actions that they have. But it's just funny to me that it mentioned warfare, and I just want to know what you see in that. Is there, can we talk about that for a little bit? Is the war between the heaven and the earth? Is the war between everything that was created? So it kind of shines a little light on, to me, a couple of things. This so-called fall that Adam had, it kind of opens that up a little bit more to me, and my mind also went back to Isaiah, where God says, "I made good and I made unrighteousness." So that, to me, those kind of things kind of came to mind. But what do you see in this? What would anybody have a thought on this at all?
Hey, good morning, everyone. Ron, just to answer your question, one of the first things in what you read was I examined the word rest. And rest means to recover from a strenuous task. And that strenuous task can be mental or physical, or it can be in duality. So whatever the universe was doing, the universe had to recover and relax. I don't think rest has anything to do with sleep, but yet just the word rest, and when I apply that to my own self, I may say, hey, man, I need some rest out here. And rest may mean I'm not going to do anything for the weekend. I'm going to just binge watch Netflix. So that word rest, just by definition of Webster, it states to recover your strength. So whatever the universe was doing out here, if it's God, Allah, or Buddha, Jehovah Rapha, Elohim, or the feminine side of God, whatever was taking place, they needed a break. Is that safe to say, or is that not safe to say?
No, you're right on rest. It's a little more in depth than that when you look at it from from a Hebrewic or Aramaic perspective. But you're right on point with that. The thing though that I was saying that jumped out at me was that first verse, the word host, and all their hosts. He completed the works and all their hosts. And the word host to me is what kind of stood out. Because when we read the creation story, we think of something slightly different than something being prepared for war. You think of peace. You think of angelic beings being soft and everything being in harmony. But this is not talking about harmony, and that's what kind of stands out a little bit, because this supposedly is at the beginning, right? So at the beginning, why is there no harmony? So it just a lot in there that kind of caught my attention and made me ask questions. And I was just curious as to anybody else had looked at that or what your thoughts may be.
Ron, good morning. This is Barbara.
Good morning.
I'm looking at several different sources in Genesis. And that word that's host, I think that's in the King James Version, correct?
And New American Standard.
And the American Standard. I'm looking at the Living Torah by Rabbi Kaplan, which was a new translation based on the old Jewish traditions. And what it says is that heaven and earth and all their components were thus completed with the seventh day. God finished all the work that he had done. And in the Torah and the commentary, it reads, the heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. So it looks like there are several different understandings of that word host. So my question, it just generated another question. My question is that the word that was used by the translators, or was it part of the original interpretation?
The word that was used, Barbara, looks like it was Tsabah. I don't know.
Tsabah.
Yeah. Do you see that in anything that you're looking at from your translations? Because I wondered that too. Had that word been substituted? And I usually wonder that, and pretty confident of that in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, it's usually the accuracy is a little more on point, but that very well could be.
What word are you looking at? In what verse?
A host in verse 1.
The other translation I have is...
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Tsabah was what you were going to say. The other translation...
yeah, go ahead.
The other translation that I'm looking at is the New International. And it says the heavens and the earth were completed with everything that was in them. So, again, I haven't quite grasped the perspective of hosts yet from the other translations.
Could it be that this verse or the entirety of the creation story describes life as we know it and what is to take place, and is telling you really how this all ends? Could this be the whole story wrapped up in the creation story? if you look at those days and see them as periods of enlightenment and see them from that perspective, could this be showing us that we are in the period of war now, and the next thing after the war is the seventh day, the thing that kind of shows you, reveals everything to you that you've been fighting for, you've been wishing for? Could this be summing up the entirety of the earthly experience?
I tend to agree with that, because if you look at the fact that in all of these renditions, one's host, one is these are the components, all of the components that were created, the array of everything that was completed. When we look at the fact that both darkness and light were created, darkness and light encompasses everything, and so a part of what I've read in the past is that this speaks to the creation thus far, and part of that was left for us as Elohim to create as well. The word array is translated what you were talking, Tzatu. I'm sorry, Tzava, which is very similar to the Tsabah, and it usually applies. It says only to heaven. In this phrase, it is extended to apply to the earth as well, and so it's everything that's in earth and in heaven, all aspects of it, or what we used to refer to as the good, the bad, and the ugly, which we now understand is that that it is no good, bad, ugly. There's no good, bad. It's everything, and everything is part of is not duality, but oneness in itself.
Yes.
But we see it. But
Yes.
we see it as duality.
And are you speaking
Someone
from
else. I'm
which
sorry,
verse?
Pastor, say that again.
Are you speaking from the
We're
verses?
still
Of, what
I'm
verses are
not
you
quite.
looking at?
We're looking at Genesis chapter 2 of the first verse. Thus the heavens and the earth were created, were complete, and all their hosts. We were looking at that word host, and Barbara was looking at some different translations that she had, and we're just trying to pull that together.
Okay. I had looked at something in regards to host, and when I looked at that word in the New Testament. However, what I have seen with the entirety of the creation, the whole array of everything that was created, everything that was created, it was created with a diametric or something that was not so much the opposite. I'm trying to think of the word that we've been using, the dichotomy. However, what I began to see is that each of the dichotomies are a type of resistance. So one of the reasons I think that the rendition of host speaks to the idea of an army is because, as you said, Ron, an army speaks to war, but more specifically is indicative of some type of resistance. And there is no light in the physical without resistance, and there is no light in the spiritual without resistance. And when I say there's no light in the physical without resistance, if you look at a light bulb, there's a negative and a positive charge, but there's a resistor that connects them, and that's what gives the light. And the same principle operates in the spiritual as well. And I think that we're beginning to see a classic example of that when we look at what's happening currently in our environment. I hope that I'm on the same page with you guys. At least I think I am.
I think you are, and so based on what you just said, and kind of on the same page what Barbara said as well, the things that we are experiencing now in the earth, if your enlightenment increases, then so must the resistance. If the dichotomy is an illusion, kind of, sort of, because if you see it from a spiritual perspective, it is the catalyst that pushes you to enlightenment, so it must increase as well.
Not
right?
necessarily.
So,
Not necessarily.
okay.
If you if you use a catalyst to get a chemical reaction, the catalyst does not necessarily increase. The reaction does. So when I look at resistance in regards to spirituality, what I see is resistance as being a catalyst to catapult you to a greater desire for enlightenment. And as your enlightenment increases, the catalyst may change, but it doesn't increase, or the resistance may be a different type of resistance, but it does not increase necessarily.
Okay.
Let me show you what I'm saying. We're talking about bringing balance, right? There's a different type of resistance to that. One type of resistance to that, we see it politically, we see it religiously, we see it socially, we see it economically. All of those are different types of resistance to enlightenment because they are being introduced into our environment based upon selfishness. There are different types, but each one of them pushes us to gain a greater insight into what spirituality is and who we are. Right now, we are the greatest resistance to enlightenment. When I say we are, I'm talking about our mindset about how things are, how they were or should be. That is the greatest resistance to enlightenment. And one of the simplest ways I know how to put that is, how many times have you been sitting at a light and you didn't move because you felt the car was coming through? That's Elohim. But how many times has that happened and we discount it as being nothing or coincidence? That's what I mean when I say that. We are sometimes the greatest resistance to enlightenment because we look for the big things instead of seeing what considered the smaller things. If that makes any sense.
It does. It does make sense. I want to make one more point, and then I want to see if there are any questions or comments. And you guys can help me with this too. It's on the lines of what Pastor just said. The other thing that made sense to make sense of this to me is to take a closer look at heaven and earth. If you look earth up, of course, it talks about the ground and whatnot, talks about the physical part of it. But if I want to look at earth as the consciousness or the level of awareness of the creator that's in the earth, and if I use as an example the this will be a good place for Pastor to kind of sum up what he talked about, I guess. But if I use as example chapter 2 of 2 Peter, if you look at man's approach to God in the earth, it is through religion. That is the dominant source of man's approach is through religion. And that level of consciousness has not led to a true awareness. So there is no heavenly, there is no enlightenment being involved in that degree to that point. Technologically, the earth is full. Technologically, or all the, we come up with all these gadgets and things, but when it comes to spiritual things, the earth is lacking. So speak to that a little bit, Pastor, and if you will, from the point of religion, so we can get a grasp of heaven and earth and the relationship that the two of them are supposed to have.
I don't see any difference in that than I do when I look at what happened prior to Jesus coming into the earth. The reason Jesus came is because of religion. We don't see it that way because we've not been taught that. When the priests began to do what they chose to do as opposed to what they were supposed to be doing, that is religion. And for 2,000 years, that endured until Jesus came in bodily form. And what did he do when he came? He introduced what the priest should have been doing, and that is to teach people about who they are and who they were created to be. They didn't do that. They taught the people to actually worship them and to respect them as the supreme power, source rather, of spirituality. That is no different than what we are experiencing now with church, mosque, synagogue, whatever. We're experiencing the same thing that happened then. So when Jesus came into the earth, he came to rightly interpret the truth, rightly interpret the law or the demands of our Creator. He did that. Now, from Jesus up to now, what happened? What Jesus taught, men took it and did the same thing with it that the priests did with what they were told by the prophets. They took it and made it a personal endeavor for them to enrich themselves in the minds of society, as well as to enrich themselves with wealth. And now here we are. If you can see where we are now, it is no different than the place where Jesus was. What's happened is there has been a group raised up as opposed to one being raised up in the body of Jesus to do the same thing that Jesus did, but on a greater level. And this is the greater thing I do believe that Jesus is talking about. Using the teachings of Jesus to bring clarity to humanity so that religion can be exposed for what it is and the same thing that it was prior to Jesus coming. A set of doctrines written by men, and in the case of prior to Jesus, it was Leviticus and Deuteronomy, etc., that were written by men in order for the priests to keep men in check. Right now, the doctrines that are written to keep men in check, Baptist doctrine, Methodist doctrine, Catholicism, etc., Islam, those doctrines are kept to keep men in place. We are here now to expose those doctrines for what they are, and at the same time, reveal to men the true nature of what the book is saying and what Jesus taught and what Muhammad taught. All of these things are to be exposed to humanity, to give them opportunity to come to a state of balance. So I'm hoping that I'm answering your question, Ron.
Yes, sir. You are. Anyone else? Anyone? Any questions about this? Any further insight or comments? We're looking at Genesis chapter 2. It opens things up and gives a different viewpoint for us and better understanding as well as to where we are right now in the earth and what's going on. Because if you read this is a very nice, clever little story put together that looks harmonious and looks like everything is very peacefully done. When it, describes here something totally different than anything we've ever conceived the meaning of this to be. And to look at this and recognize that not only are heaven and earth talking about concepts, but everything in here is talking about concepts. So this is extremely spiritual, and as we visualize it, maybe we can change how we see this based on our new understanding. So these concepts are resistant to each other, and that is where the friction, if you will, is taking place, and it kind of it just kind of surprised me as I looked at this and thought of, after everything is created, this is what is seen, and it was all done by the Creator. It was all done by God. So from that perspective, you look at it and you're like, okay, where does that lead us today? It tells me that at least we are trying to gain understanding of what is written in this book. We're also gaining understanding of who we are and why things are happening the way they happen and what our roles are. And I hope, at least to some degree, it is reassuring that the journey we're on is the right one. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Ron, I believe that we are more. We talk about Jesus as representing the concepts, right?
Yes.
Suppose that every concept that Jesus represented is what we are representing now, or is what we are now. Suppose that's true. Suppose that we see ourselves as individuals, but we're not. We're individual in body, but we're one collective when it comes to the concept of bringing balance to the earth. If that is true, then how do we view what happened during this, what is happening now? Because Jesus did not deal with what happened in the past. Jesus dealt with what was happening during his period in the earth, did he not?
Yes.
His approach to the Romans, his approach to the priests, his approach to everything. And then when the past was brought up to him, what did he say? He said, Abraham longed to see my day. He said things like that because he dealt with what people were familiar with in order to show them who they are and who they could be. That being true, then is it not our responsibility to look at what's going on around us right now and be able to do the same as Jesus did when he was in the earth? And if people embrace it, that's fine. And if they don't, they don't. That's not what happened with Jesus. Everybody did not embrace what Jesus taught. And He did not. He did not even pressure them to do it. He just said what he said and kept it moving. So what I'm saying is this: instead of uh, um, um, instead of trying to individually understand different sections of the scriptures, let's try maybe looking at them in regards to what we are now. What am I saying? We looked last time at Second Peter in relationship to where church and religions are, where they are right now. We did that on Monday night. Right now, where are we? We've crossed the bridge into a new year, and in crossing that bridge into a new year, there have been quite a few things that has taken place in the last few weeks, and it has upended so many things that we had set our sights on doing. And when I say we, I'm talking about humanity, mankind. It has upended many of those things. It's almost like we were at the state in October of coming out of Egypt, and all of a sudden things shifted. Why did they shift? They shift because um, no one, and those who had opportunity to make a difference in the lives of men, they didn't do that. They shift because the message has not been received by those who profess to be the shepherds of the people. They, they, the shift in, occurred because it appears as though no one was listening to what was being said. If in the beginning, in 2020, everything was brought to a halt in order for us to take note of what was going on, then what happened in 2021 in December? Is it not? Does it not make sense is it not? I'm sorry, I'm grappling for words. Is it not pretty much the same thing that we are being stopped in our tracks? For what purpose? To take note of what's going on or what is not happening. The whole idea of the Omicron, I believe, is the end of everything. I said this before. And what I'm saying is that the thing that seems to be destructive is also the very thing that's going to bring the destructive aspects of COVID to an end. The other thing is when we look at the weather patterns, we look at it in terms of global warming, but also what happened when we look at what happened in Chicago, not Chicago, in Colorado, the winds, the fires, all of these things just came seemingly out of nowhere. These are plagues, and I do not discount global warming, but I do see with a greater insight that these are plagues that we as a people in this earth realm are not paying much attention to. We think that they can be solved with windmills and cleaning up the oceans. That's not going to happen if they are not. If the issues are not settled in the spiritual realm, they will not be settled in the earth realm. Why do I say that? Because if cannot man cannot bring humanity to a place of being human, then man will never be able to dominate the earth and bring the weather patterns back into control or put back where they're supposed to be. It's almost like somebody's the creator has told us we are to dominate the earth, so we do anything we want to do and expect the earth to stay in tune with the way it was created, where the earth responds to us and it responds to our attitudes. And if we don't stay focused on what we are doing, if we don't pay attention to the signs of the times, then we begin to be a party to the destruction in the earth as opposed to a healer. Does that make sense? Please help me ask questions or make
Yes.
comments.
Well, I want to back you up a minute though. Make sure I got this. you said if things aren't settled in the heavens, they'll never be settled in the earth. Settling, help me with settling in the heavens, because
I meant settled in man. We
okay,
have to get
okay,
settled within us. That's what I'm saying. We are not even
okay,
settled within Elohim, even though we know what the truth is. Are we settled with it? Are, are we settled with it to the point where you remember when Jesus said, "I gave you a new family"? Remember that? Are we settled to the point
yeah,
where if family walks away, it's okay? Are we settled to the point where it does not matter what we have to deal with? We are going to do what we are supposed to do. Are we settled with it too? That we did not get upset because quote unquote Christmas wasn't what it's supposed to be. That we settled with it to the point where we're willing to walk away from the religious stuff in these churches and the lies that are told in these churches and call them for what they are. Are we really, really willing to do that? And I'm not talking about being nasty about it, but I am talking about correcting the wrong. When opportunity presents itself, are we willing? Someone asked a question, are we willing to give a true answer as opposed to trying to make someone comfortable, as opposed to making them helping them to understand the truth? We have for too long made people comfortable. And in making them comfortable, we have created more discomfort. So what I am saying right now is, how can we expect to be comfortable ourselves when we are trying to be comfortable with the things that we know the scripture is not talking about? How can we be comfortable in church? How can we be comfortable on the job? How can we be comfortable with our friends? How can we be comfortable with our family when all of these are named or speaking and acting in ways that is antithetical to what the truth is without addressing it? And I'm not talking about creating arguments. I'm talking about when questions are raised and when we are in the presence of those who are the perpetuators of these religious attitudes or these religious principles. Do we address them in the manner that we should? We on this phone, we are on these phones not simply to meet and to talk. We are here to change things. We are here for the purpose of recognizing what is going on. Right now, I would venture to say that there are probably at least 30% of the people on this phone who are afraid of what they hear in the news, who are moved by what they hear coming from other people in regards to what's happening in the world. Until we get to the place where we understand that the attitudes of a Joe Manchin or Joe Biden have no effect on us in terms of our being afraid of what's going to happen as a result of it. It doesn't matter whether a voting bill is passed or not. It doesn't matter whether or not a Build Back Better bill is. It doesn't matter. What matters is we know who we are, and the journey that we are on is not guided by what happens in Congress. And if we get upset by what happens in Congress, or if we are looking forward to what's going to happen in Congress, then our journey is being guided by Congress and not by our Creator. Does that make sense? This is not rhetorical.
yeah.
I want to know: is it not just you, Ron? Is it making sense?
Yes, it's
Hello?
making sense.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Because I know that this is going to be a different year than any that we have experienced. I know this. There's no doubt about that. But are we ready for it? let's not talk the game. Let's walk the walk. Are we ready for it? When I look at the things that seemingly are impossible to change, that's when I get excited. And I have been thinking in my own mind that our Creator is going to show us some things. Our Creator is not going to show us anything. Our desire is what's going to change things. We are the dominators of this earth. We are guided on this journey, but the one who guides us is not the one who changes things. If it's not changed, if it's not changed in us, it will not be changed by us. Do you understand what I'm saying? If it's not changed in us, it will not be changed by us. If we cannot believe that regardless of the appearance, we have the power to change it. What it's going to look like, no, we don't know. But guess what? Our soul knows. It is no different than what I said earlier. That car coming down the road, you sit at the light, you don't move. You know it's going to run through that light. That's Elohim. That's God. That's who you are. That's the spirit seeing that. That's you are seeing that, not your body, not your eyes. How is it that you can have an accident and in a split second, you can see everything? You see the car coming, you see the impact, you see everybody in the car, you see everything that happened around you, and all of it happens in less than a second. Who sees that? It's not your natural eyes that see that, because your natural eyes don't function like that. It is the spiritual essence of your being that allows your eyes to see that. So where we are in this journey right now is making sure that we are not impacted by what happens in the political arena or in the quote unquote Christian arena. I'm done.
Questions or comments, guys? Anyone? Okay.
Pastor, when you say that the Creator's not going to show us anything, you mean because he's already showed us, he's already told us, he's already equipped us?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Our desire is pregnant. When you're pregnant, you could look at the house that the baby is in, but you don't see the baby. Our desire is pregnant. We don't see what's in our desire, but we know what our desires are. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah, it
that's
does.
and holding on to that desire, and without having that desire shaken by what our eyes see, not having those desires shaken by the distractions that are around us. I will share this with you. There have been times that my family has been a greater distraction than anybody else. And it's not because they're being mean to me. It's not because they're trying to be a distraction. They're extremely kind. But at that moment, they're asking me to do something, or they're expecting me to do something that's going to pull me away from what I know I should be doing. I know I am being told I need to meditate, but now there is someone asking me to go to the store, or someone telling me I need to talk to you about something, and it's frivolous in nature. Rather than me saying, "Oh, wait, I need to do this," I go ahead and listen. And by the time I finish with that conversation, everything that I felt about this meditate is gone. So what did I miss, or what did I cause to be missed by someone else, simply because I yielded to the distraction, because I didn't want them to be upset with me. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Those things that appear to be small, but they are major. It's no different than if I'm talking about the whole idea of not yielding to the religious stuff that happens, and then here I am, I'm in church, and all of a sudden everyone is looking at me because I'm not getting into what they are doing, and now I jump up and start running with them in order to be accepted by them. What did I just do? I lived a lie. How much damage have I done to what I say I believe in? Does that make sense?
Yes.
I would like some help.
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Good morning, Pastor. Good morning, Ron, everyone. You know, when you talk about religion and the things that we have been experiencing in terms of what we were taught, I think were the conditions that has led to cognitive dissonance. And that dissonance is that belief in terms of a premise that we were taught to hold as true. We're coming, to that knowledge of knowing that we have to now refute that premise because, again, it's false. And so as we begin to look at the conviction in terms of us being aware of the truth, I feel that we have to go back and look at our beginnings. We have to look at those concepts that was taught even before the Christian era existed, to seek that truth that will help us to be able to navigate through this warfare that we're going through now in terms of what we're dealing with. So I just wanted to, say that I think things that we were taught to behold as truth is what I guess we're dissecting in terms of being able to now operate in the way that we need to as Elohim. I don't know if that resonates, but I think that's what I wanted to point out.
It's a purge.
I'm done.
It's self-purging. It's a purge for self-purging. Also, is helping each other to purge. It's being sensitive enough to recognize the minute details of what's happening in our environment. There are so many things that I have seen in the last few days that has shown me that we're closer than ever before. Last week, I think it was, I don't know whether it was Sunday or Monday, someone made a statement that you really don't want anything to happen to anybody. And I said, I do. And I had intended to expand on that, but I forgot it and nobody questioned it. The reason I said I do is because unless something happens to a lot of somebody's, nothing changes. And if we believe in this this idea that the church has perpetuated, that you're going to hell if you are wishing that something would happen to somebody. Well, anytime that you desire change, you wishing that something happened to somebody. Because every impediment to change, you want it to be moved. Now, whatever it takes to move it, it doesn't matter to me. Because if I feel like it's a sin for me to wish for somebody to die, then am I saying that dying is evil? If I feel like maybe it would be better if certain people were to die in order for us in order for humanity to survive in the manner that it was created to survive, and that is as humans. There are people who look down on that, but it doesn't matter whether you look down on it or not. The truth of the matter is, if they don't die, nothing changes. So when I talk about I want something, it doesn't matter to me about things happening to folk, then I'm saying that I sincerely want at any cost for change to take place. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. If not, please ask the question.
It's not comfortable, but we understand it.
I don't know why I feel like I disrupted everything this morning.
Not at all.
I agree with Ron. I don't think you disrupted. I think maybe disruption is a good word, but it's definitely making me think about where my desires are, or if I'm coloring them. So I thank you for that, because it makes sense what you're saying. It resonates.
I'm going to show you something. What are the days that people spend the most, look forward to being in church because they think that something magical is going to happen? Easter, Christmas, New Year's. Easter, people went to church at their own peril. Christmas, they could not do it in the manner they wanted to because of an overnight influx of a virus. New Year's, same thing. What does that look like? The Creator is saying, these are not holy days. All of them are secular. The Creator is saying, stop playing these games, because every one of us know, and you're on this phone who may be still involved in those such situations, you know that Easter has nothing to do with Jesus. It has everything to do with commercialism. You know that Christmas has nothing to do with Jesus, because you know doggone well Jesus was not born in December. You know that to be a fact. You know that the reason Jesus' birthday is put December 25th is because of the winter solstice, and the Catholics wanted, and they said in quotation, to bring the pagans into Christianity. That's the only reason. You know that a watch night service is actually pagan worship. You know these things that they had nothing to do with God whatsoever. Yet we still participate in them. So what is the difference in participating in something like that, knowing you don't believe in it, and participating in a Ku Klux Klan rally? What's the difference? What's the difference in financing a doctrine, a religion that teaches, that does not teach the truth, and in financing a campaign for Donald Trump? What's the difference? What's the difference in justifying the existence of religion that you know is not for the benefit of humanity, and justifying white supremacy? What's the difference? What is the difference in supporting pastoral leadership that is not leadership at all, and supporting the leadership of Mitch McConnell? What's the difference? There are no differences. We have to be adamant about what we believe and make up our minds that we are going to be who we say we are, and we are going to live accordingly. Does that make sense? Am I being clear in those comparisons, or am I off base with those comparisons? And if I
You're
am,
clear in
please
what
help.
you're saying.
Say
I
again?
have a question though. I said, what you're saying is resonating, but I have a question. Has Omicron shaken everything? Because you know how the scripture says everything that will be shaken, I don't want to quote it because I misquote it, but
I got you.
has Omicron shaken everything? We see everything for what it really is. There is no Merry Christmas. Just like you said earlier, there is no Easter. Yeah, that's my question.
The Omicron, in a very short period of time, has created more despair and chaos than did COVID-19. Because it took COVID over a period of time to do that. There's a scare at first, but the disorder came over a period of time. But the chaos with Omicron came overnight. 1,000 flights a day being canceled, restaurants closed, events being changed on the spur of the moment. And this is the kicker. Why is it that 90,000 people can be at a football game every single week and no mask, and you don't have a major super spreader? Why? But yet, there are no football games, and the spreading comes within the community. Why did that happen? Why is it that these super spreaders didn't come at these college football games or these pro football games? Why? Do you not think that there has to be a reason? Omicron has shaken up the world. And it has done it in a different way than COVID-19 did. Delta scared the world to death because it was killing everybody. But Omicron has shaken it up and caused us to rethink everything. Does that help you, Evelyn?
It does, and it's like it's taking different shapes and forms. I mean, they can't like put a sticker or a label on what's it really doing, and they can't trace it. I mean, I don't know what to say, but it's just like they don't know what to do.
Well, first of all, they don't care anymore. And the reason I say that is because as of December 31st, the PCR test is gone. And that's the one that you would take. It takes like 24 to 40 hours for you to get the result when you go to the clinic to get it done. And it was more accurate when it came to whether or not you were infected with COVID. The CDC says that the flu virus interfered with it. That's the biggest lie that ever been told, besides the lie about MMR viral vaccine. But anyway, so every doctor that I've heard speak on that, including Fauci, is totally against what they're saying, because the question becomes, if it did not do that during the height of COVID-19, why is it doing it now? Why is the federal government doing what it's doing? They don't care. It's all about the dollar. They're trying to get people back to work. They're not trying to get people free from the virus. And this in itself is creating chaos. Right now, today, on the face of this earth, the most chaotic, disorganized country on the face of the earth is the United States of America.
Any other questions or comments? Pastor, are you still there?
Yeah, I was wondering if he was finished.
Yeah, it didn't sound like he stopped there though.
Yeah.
If he just texted me or something came up, he had to quit for a minute. Any questions or comments, y'all?
Ron, this is Barbara.
Hey, Bob.
As I've been sitting here and listening and thinking about what we've been talking about, this is Genesis 2, but all of this is part of the first chapter, because originally there were no chapters, right? So
Right.
I went back and tried to capture the essence of what has been said previously, and it talked about creation and what was created, et cetera, et cetera. How God allowed the sun and the waters of heaven to coexist, which is a miracle in and of itself, because usually the heat and water, one thing gets consumed by the other, but that didn't happen. And then created all the plants, all of that stuff, all the fish and sea, blah, 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 and ended up just before we got into talking about heaven and earth and everything being finished, created the man, the human, in his image. So, and he created and it created the human in its image just before it said, okay, everything that was created, the host of everything, the array of everything, the components of everything, whether they be dark or whether they be light, everything that was created, just before he said that, just before he started talking about Shabbat, which is Sabbath. So,
Yes.
so the human was created almost as a bridge, if you will, between heaven and earth, having components of both. The fleshly, the flesh wasn't here at this time, but being able to transcend spiritual as well as earth kinds of consciousness. And so has the critical role, has the critical work of completing creation. The human does, because the human was then told to dominate the earth. The human, it's as if you're saying, okay, all of the components are here. All the components of continuing creation are here. Your job is to cultivate earth consciousness. Your job is to see that things continue to progress, things continue to grow, and that grow I interpret as not only an earthly growth, but a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
That your job is to be fertile, and fertility includes birth to me. To be fertile and increase, fill the earth and master it. In other words, when everything else says we're in dire consequences, our job is to put a little spiritual fertilizer to that thing and say, no, just because you see chaos doesn't mean that's the end. And I'm wondering, based on the comment that Evelyn made, and then Pastor spoke to it about Omicron, because of the changes between the mutation of this variant, that Omicron is simply our opportunity to fertilize what's already been put in place by how we define it, by how we contextualize it, by how we visualize it, by how we create with it. So it does not necessarily mean that as people see, the earth is coming to an end. It is simply this ongoing process that the Creator has given us, the human, to continue to create with the host, with everything, with the array, with all the components of everything that was created, of the heavens and the earth, and that were finished. So I don't see, I see that it's creating massive shifting in terms of what people see earthly, but I also see it as creating potential for massive shifting in terms of what's later seen as Shabbat, or rest, or because Shabbat was not made before man, because the animals function within the seasons and time and things like that. But man has the opportunity to impose its will on time, which is different to me. So I just see Omicron as more fertilizer to be added to the process of creating increased spiritual levels of awareness globally. And I don't know if that resonates, but I mean, that's the way that I see it.
I not only does it resonate, I think it sums things up beautifully, and even ties in with what Pastor was saying. That answers a lot of questions for me. And I want to talk about that, the last part you talked about again, because I want to make sure we get that in the universe. I want to unfold that and look at that, because I had never thought about how to take negative things or things that seem negative or destructive or even bring about death and turn them into something positive. That's an eye-opener to me to look at that further. So, but I just want to point out one word here before we get into the seventh day and Shabbat. As you mentioned, the word works. It says, and the seventh day God completed his work. That word work does mean occupation, but it also means a messenger, to dispatch a messenger, or messengers, or to dispatch deputies. So could that be us? Could we be that dispatch? Could there be anybody who's searching for truth, be that which is dispatched, that which is to bring about enlightenment? So because of what you see, one of the first things we have seen individually and collectively is this search for redemption, this search for salvation is not an individual thing. You have to see that it involves all mankind. So as you become more aware, you embrace that. So the word work there, his work, kind of stood out to me as well, and we didn't get to that. But to me, it kind of supports what Barbara just said. But I want to go back and look at that, because I want to make sure we unfold that, because you mentioned on two levels that man has opportunity to make influence, and one of those is looking at the seventh day, which we hadn't got to yet, but the other one is looking at it from the earthly perspective. And you talked about the viruses. Go into that again, Barbara, if you see anybody see something more into that, turning something deadly like that into a positive thing.
Well, I was simply going back to what the Creator said was the created purpose. The created, meaning the human created in its image. And in the previous section, it talked about all of the seeds and all of the fruit that the created, the human could eat. All the animals on the land, birds, blah blah blah, in which there's breath. That was created and given to the human, even the green plants and all of that. In other words, what it's saying is, it was good. It was so, and it was good. Everything that was created, it doesn't matter whether it was negative, from our perspective. Again, from the man's perspective, but it's not necessarily negative when you look at the fact that the Creator created it. It's all fodder, it's all material, it's all spiritual matter for creation. And it's how we choose to put the components, put the host of things that were created together, and define and describe it spiritually is what creates what is part of creation. We can either take it and use only the earth consciousness, and we see utter chaos. We can take all of this, and from the earth consciousness, it instills fear, it instills anxiety, it instills horror, it instills betrayal, all of those things in us, if we see it only from the perspective of earth consciousness. However, man was created, not man, the human was created with aspects of earth consciousness as well as spiritual consciousness. And therein is the opportunity for man to continue the work that the Creator had, quote unquote, finished. All it was saying is that the Creator had finished everything that it had purpose to do at this point. And the human was then created as the bridge, if you will, between the spiritual and earth consciousness. And so the expectation is that the human continue creation. And so by virtue of having that purpose and that will, the human can take what is perceived as negative by those with only those using primarily their earth consciousness, but because we as humans can bridge that and create it. It's like having this putty in your hands, and it can become whatever you shape it to be by virtue of how you mold it, et cetera, et cetera. All of this stuff, Omicron, whatever, is simply the fertilizer that the human uses to create. It doesn't have to be the negative. So I'm at the risk of starting to repeat myself. I just simply wanted to highlight the fact that based on everything that was created that was made prior to the creation of the human, the work of the Creator did not stop. It simply rested from what it had created. And it's up to the human to take up the mantle now and to continue that creative process. And the universe even mirrors what it is we're supposed to be doing. I mean, there are billions and billions and billions of universes out there that continue to create. But that's only a physical mirror of the spiritual process of creation that we're supposed to be doing. And we think about only this earth ball right here, but whatever happens here also radiates and affects other created universes. But I don't want to get into that right now. But because we can't seem, a lot of us with our earth consciousness can't seem to move off the ball with protecting what we were tasked with protecting on this ball, let alone all the other ones in the universe. So I don't know. Ask me questions if I'm just rambling. I don't want to do that. You said a lot of stuff, and it opened my eyes to some things I had not seen. I tell you, one of the things that you said that I see from what you said
makes a lot of sense. So we talked about the word work. Another word is an ambassador, and even a deputy. The sheriff is not there, or the government is not there, but the ambassador or the deputy has that same authority. So you are acting on behalf of the one that sent you under that authority, using those same principles. So when you talk about the human being in the light of that, or being made in between those, the heavens and earth, that the things that were made, I can't say it the way you said it. That's what comes to light to me. The other thing I thought about was, we see the moon at night, but the moon is visual because of the sunlight. It does not have a light of its own. So we become that conduit for that light to come and shine. And it also what I think I heard, and we can talk about this more, is that the earth has the opportunity to have the same consciousness as the heavens if the human recognizes and lives and establishes these principles in the earth. And that's just a couple of things I thought I heard you saying, and what I got out of it. Some of it, because you said a lot of stuff there. But anyone else, or Barbara, do you want to comment on anything that I just mentioned?
Ron?
Yeah.
I agree with what
Ron.
you said. We
Sorry,
are the
Barbara.
symbol. We are the symbol. We are the representative of the Creator in the earth. That's what we were made. You're exactly right. The authority has been given to us, and so we talk about Omicron and these pauses, all of these significant pauses that are occurring. It's to remind us that is our work. That is our task. Our task is to bring order to that. And it's only, and everyone who's functioning from basically an earth consciousness is not there. They don't see that. But we cannot let that deter us. We cannot let that make us uncomfortable. We cannot let that make us discouraged. We can only say, okay, bring it on. Okay, everybody, the earth is not ready to earth consciousness, the human, the man is not ready to receive this. Well, here's some more material for creation. Omicron, bring it on, because there is a body of humans out there who can use this material, this fodder, this part of the universe, this component of the universe, to create what the Creator would have us be, and to know that we are one, that we are its ambassadors, that we are here for that purpose, to represent divinity.
Beautifully said. Thank you. There were several other voices. I hope this makes sense to you, but any other comments or questions, please?
Yeah, good morning. Again, good morning, Ron. I just want to speak with in reference to what Barbara just mentioned. And if we talk about, again, saying that we are Elohim having a human experience, we are the Creator having a human experience, then in terms of us being able to appreciate our beginning, when we talk about the universe, if we're able, to understand our beginning, and again, just give me a moment, I can try to express it, where our beginning, started before the beginning. And when I say started before the beginning, if the universe, was water, if the universe was the eternal waters, and everything started in that water, in that substance, in that matter, then everything is all in that. And I think what I heard Barbara said, that it's all there and it's all good, but us being the creator, having a human experience, we now, need to look at it in reference to, as you're saying, in terms of being an ambassador, of us just being able to understand the process that as so above, so below. We understand, or we look at it from the earth consciousness, but when we can begin to see it from the spiritual source or from the heavens, then this is where, when we talk about spirituality before religion, we're coming back to look at the science, or we're beginning to look at the energy. And so when we talk about, again, the universe, and you've mentioned it in the past, that there's vibrations, there's energy, and I believe that we got to go back to that primary source, or, the secondary sources, in terms of how we're receiving, what we're learning. I mean, in terms of the scripture that you used earlier in Genesis 2, in the Message Bible, it talked about heaven and earth was finished down to the last detail. And so it's all in that matter. It's all in that substance. It's all in the eternal waters. But now what manifests out of those waters in terms of being able to see it from a spiritual perspective. And so, when you talked about the ambassador, it just made me think the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 5:18, I believe, now then we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God did beseech us, and through Christ's stead, we are to reconcile, people back to the Creator. So I think that there's, some processes that we have to look at. I know for me that I have to look at, that I truly appreciate where I am today and my desire, to want to seek truth. But I think we have to go back to those primary sources, that are the evidence and proof of the truth through that evidence. And again, if that resonates with anyone, but I think, as Barbara mentioned, it's all in that matter. It's all in that substance that was there before the beginning. And that's what, I know I'm seeking to try to have a better understanding of. So I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thanks for letting me share this. I'm done.
Thank
George, Ron?
Yeah.
This is Audrey. Good morning.
Yes.
To me, I think George and Barb and George just described what it means by all their hosts being present there too. Not only some things being there, but also the potential for whatever we create is already there. So the host, I think, is inclusive of a lot of things. It can be armies, It can be angels, it can be stars and planets and whatever. But included in that is the potential for whatever we as mankind are going to create or bring into fruition. Just like in science, where those weird particles, where you don't see them until you look at it. I mean, they're not there until you look at that spot, and then they're there. Just like looking for planets, we never knew they were out there until we looked for them. And probably they never existed until we had the desire which created them. So I think what that word host means has been explained by Barb and George.
I agree with you, and the concept of science that you spoke of is very real, and that's a great example of we've used in the past of your desire to see something, the thing that you focus on, you cause to appear, cause to be animated, and some action to take place. That's scientific proof. And what I hear everybody saying, or again, this is me my interpretation, I guess, of what I hear you saying is, if I look at it this way, because when you read this out of the book, and I'm talking about the Bible when I say the book, of course, we see, and I think Barbara said, that's a pastor said, we see these physical things or places, and the heaven and the earth, then it describes what the completion or the summation of what man is. These principles lie inside of us. These 7 periods of creation are 7 principles of spiritual life and who we are. So when you look at it from that perspective, you're right. What you're saying, Audrey, is this battle is an internal thing. It can also not be a battle. It does not have to be an army of destruction, or it has to be. It has to be, though, some level of resistance to open our eyes to get us to moving in that path. But you are constantly creating that army, and it does not have to be something that is always devastating to you. So I'm listening to everything that's being said, and this is kind of unfolding right before our eyes here. But anybody else? Any other questions or comments?
One of the things I want to add is, in having oneness with the Creator, and this is opinionated, one of the things that we can't do is seek the approval of others. And what I mean by that is, I'll go ask a European male, hey, how that owner operating thing doing for you? He'll say it's rough. And every brother that I've talked to, hey, quick, you can do this, man. It's right up your alley. And seeking approval by way, not just of the European, just of anyone. You want to do something, then you should go ahead and do it. If you're seeking the approval of others, or when I seek the approval of others as it relates to trucking, it makes it real difficult for Miss Richard and Reverend Richard, who cover me, to operate in the I am. So you can't maneuver scared out here. And that's how I used to be. However, where I am now is just cautiously. Write your stuff down. Forecast some clouds that's going to be hiccups. Yet do not maneuver in life scared. The other aspect of when Reverend Richard was talking about leadership, just the leadership in the pulpit, you should always be able to fact check leadership in the pulpit, whether it's the imam, the rabbi, district superintendent, bishop, pastor, minister. You should always be able to fact check them. I don't think we in this condition because someone ate an apple. If you go to the state fair, one of the top 3 selling items at a state fair is a candy apple. Apple pie, apple a day, keep the doctor away.
Yeah, I agree with you, George. The fact check, though, that we're talking about now is feeling that vibration, being in one with yourself, and knowing who and what you are and what your desires are. So it's not so much of looking at him in the pulpit and fact checking in that way. Is you know what you're searching for and what resonates with you, and to hear and feel that truth. That is the best way, I guess, or the most. What we're explaining now is experiencing truth, not necessarily hearing it and agreeing with it from that perspective, but experiencing it. And that's what we're saying. You're moving to So the understanding of these principles is living that part of it, understanding the experiences, the opportunity that you have, as Barbara said, and I had never looked at that, is to look at all this death and all the negative stuff and saying these are my opportunities. It just kind of opened the rest of this up to me to look at it from. I never would have thought of the virus that way, is what I'm getting at. And, you know, it does make sense from the perspective of, I think, as all of us, when we see or have seen in the past someone being hurt or even killed by the police, we feel that. That too resonates with you. You feel that. And that's part of that catalyst that pushes us forward. So as we move into our humanness, this becomes more evident to us. And as we operate in it, that level of awareness increases in the earth. It changes that awareness. So that's the difference in what this discussion was about. Okay. Was there anyone else? I thought I heard another voice that had a question or comment. I want to look at one other concept of this, and maybe hopefully we'll revisit this tomorrow, have some time to think about it. I want to, Barbara, talk for a minute about resting, Shabbat. It means, as George stated in the beginning, it talks about restoring something or someone to its original state. It also talks about, of course, to end something or to bring something to an end or to cease doing something. It also, there's a lot in that word. There's a lot, you know, complete something or something to be restored. So, and that goes along with the number 7. 7, of course, as we talked about before, talks about completeness. 7 also talks about to be ripened, or to talks about wholeness, and stability, and to see holiness. So when you set all this up, verse 3 saying God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it. Sanctified talks about to set something apart. What is all this saying in conjunction to what we just discussed? Because if each and every one of these days is a period of enlightenment, and as we've said, this is a spiritual thing, then even though nothing was created on the 7th day, it is still a point of enlightenment. It is a point of awareness, a principle there. So how does that fit in to what we're saying, what we're talking about? I think the sanctification of it is to go in line with what we talked about. It something sanctified talks about to be consecrated, to be set apart, to be hallowed. So the thing that we, as I listened to what Barbara went into her explanation, and it resonated with me the first time she said, and that's why I asked her again, because I know I had missed some stuff. The setting apart is what we're doing now. We're being set apart to receive more. We're being set apart. And the consecration is not so much like you would in church. I'm going to set this table apart because this is the communion table and you can't touch it. The setting apart is on twofold. It is on the one side, as she mentioned, from the earthly side, is so you don't get caught up into this. Your mental state sees that you are above this the portion that she described as fear or paranoia or whatever these emotions are. So you set apart from that stuff, or getting caught up, getting mixed up in that stuff, or from the spiritual perspective, you move to a place to receive. You move to a place to so that you can hear. You move to a place that you can become. You move to a place that we can do like we're doing now and talk things out and recognize that our words are creating and putting things in the macro, in the universe. So it just, as I listened to everything, it just kind of tied in to everything that was being said. Any other questions or comments? So what else do you see there?
Ron, I was trying to wait and see if anyone else had anything else to say, because I've been barging in a lot. So if anybody else has a comment before I make a comment.
Keep barging. No, keep barging in. Everybody has rules,
yeah.
but I want to hear what you got to say. Okay.
Anyway, we complete the work. We are the ones to complete the work of the Creator by imposing, but setting order over chaos. And I agree with what everybody said about host, and it's everything. Everything is there for us to create that order out of chaos. And as we look at what happened after the human was created, then that's when this process of Shabbat, or this thing called Shabbat, came into being. And Shabbat is simply to set something apart as holy. Now it takes a time to do that, because it says set this aside. What is this? This is that period of time that you set, whatever's in that time you set aside as holy. And for us, I believe that Shabbat is not just one day now. Shabbat is this period of time that we are in, that we are ordering this chaos so that it becomes holy, so that it is holy. And so, whereas physically we can set aside a day to not worry about day-to-day earthly consciousness kinds of things, but to meditate and to heighten our spiritual awareness. Above and beyond that is the spiritual Shabbat. And that spiritual Shabbat is about continuously overseeing the order that's been created from chaos. And so, again, animals, they do things according to time. They do things according to the season. Animals hibernate when it gets cold, if there's a cold enough place. Although right now, the earth is so, there's lots of stuff going on. Some of them don't know it's time to hibernate, or else they're coming out of hibernation early. But they do things seasonally. The human that was created was the only one that could impose time, if you will, that could impose purpose onto that time. And so our job now is to impose that purpose of creating balance, of creating peace, of creating loving kindness, unto all creation, on all creation. I'm going to stop there. See if there are questions.
Questions, anyone? I'm writing some stuff down. I tell you what I wouldn't mind doing, if you guys think this is a good idea. I wouldn't mind picking this up tomorrow. And Bob, if you're going to be on tomorrow, I wouldn't. I'm asking you, would you lead this? Because you see this, and I'll kind of ask questions, I guess, and kind of yield, because I think you see it far greater than I do here, and it's making sense. And I want to kind of tie this in, and in the end, I want to talk about how we bring order to this and the imposing purpose a bit. All this chaos. What do we do in our part of the creation process? I just want to look at this a little bit more.
Ron, before we get off,
I'll be glad to open the discussion tomorrow. I'll say that, because that's all it is. It's opening, beginning.
Okay.
I have a question, Ron, before we end the session.
Okay.
We're meeting January 1, 2022. What is the significance of that?
That is a good place to start tomorrow. I had not thought about that. I got kind of caught up in looking at this. I had not even, until Pastor said it on the phone, that this was the first of the year. I went to bed last night at my normal time, and I heard my phone and people. But you know what? I was asleep, and I woke up about 3-something, and I thought about this, and I looked at it a little bit, and I went back to bed. So as far as from that perspective, I had even thought about the date, and I'm sure there is a significance. Or it
equates to the number 7. This is number 7. This equates
number 8.
to the number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And you know what I was doing, just for clarity, what I was looking at was January 2022. And so I was just looking at it in a different way. And so when I added up those numbers, that's how I came to the number 8. But that was just in my own mindset, something I was thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that goes with what we're talking about today, as far as that number was the 7. So Okay.
Yeah. And again,
Wait,
I look up.
How did you get 7 again?
First month, 1. First day, 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Then 2022, you add the 2 to the 1 plus 1 is 2. Add 2, that's 4. 0, you don't count that. Add another 2, that's 6. Add the last one, that's 1. And tomorrow we'll be dealing with the number 8, because it'll be 102, 2021. Oh, I'm sorry, George is right. It's 2022.
It's
Yeah,
2022.
George, I apologize, George. You're right. I'm still in 2021.
That's okay. That's all right. We're on the same page. We good.
So tomorrow be new beginning, 8.
Well, today is new beginning.
Today is 8.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah, today is new beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the nonsense.
So that wow, that speaks a lot. That speaks to what Pastor said, and about this virus, kind of being the end, and because I didn't see it when he was saying it. I won't say I didn't see. I didn't understand it, and when Barbara added her part, it became more clear. Now I'm beginning to see what pulling all that together. So what do y'all think? I think that'll be a good starting point tomorrow. Is that all right?
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll look at these same verses, and I'm going to talk to Pastor if he has some time in the morning to get with us, and we'll kind of go from there. And this is exciting to me. This is like I said, it's beautiful to me, and it takes me to a very. It gives me a high that I can't explain when I see things, or we see things that I'd never seen before, and it opens the just kind of opens a door. It just does something to me. So as much as we read these scriptures, these verses, this is some fruit that we had not seen before, or that was not ripened to us before. I put it like that. So that's beautiful to me. And again, I want to say it takes all of us. Appreciate all the energy, whether you spoke or not, all the questions, all the comments, because it takes all of us to open these things up. And that, to me, is the beauty of it all. Okay? So if there are no more questions or comments, tomorrow we'll try to do a summation and open it up by looking at the number 8 and what that means and how that ties in to this, and get a better understanding of what Sabbath is and how and it, as far as creation goes. Okay.
Ron, wonder if you wouldn't
Thanks,
mind
guys.
if George. Ron, wonder if you wouldn't mind if George opened it up with that discussion of the number 8. It'll be 9 tomorrow, but the
Excellent.
whole discussion begins with number 8. George, would you do that?
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. Appreciate it. I hope everybody have an awesome day. It's a good day of rest. It's a place to be open today, but enjoy your day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye, family.
Bye.